She recognized him on the second day. Not immediately, it had been 23 years, and dying had changed him the way it changes everyone. Thinner, slower, the eyes more still than they used to be. But she knew. She stood at the foot of his bed with his chart in her hands, and she knew, and she did not say a word. She finished her notes. She gave him his medication. She said goodnight, and then she walked to the staff bathroom at the end of the corridor and sat down on the floor and stayed there until she could breathe properly again. His name on the chart was Marcus Webb. He was 61 years old and dying of liver failure. He was also the man who had sent her brother to prison. Claire Harmon had been a hospice nurse for 19 years. She had cared for judges, for schoolteachers, for men who had done terrible things and men who had done very little at all. The work had a way of leveling people. In the final weeks, most of them were just frightened. Most of them wanted someone nearby who was not afraid of what was coming. She had become good at that. She had become, in the way of people who find the job that fits the shape of them, very good at it. Her brother Daniel had been 19 years old when they arrested him. The charge was manslaughter, a fight outside a bar in which a man named Roy Eston had fallen backward and struck his head on the curb and never woke up. Daniel said he hadn't been there. He said he'd left more than an hour before it happened. He had a receipt from a gas station 4 miles away, timestamped 11:42 p.m. The problem was Marcus Webb. Marcus Webb told the court he had seen Daniel Harmon at the scene. He was specific. He described Daniel's jacket, a gray Carhartt with a torn left pocket, and the way Daniel had shoved Roy Eston first. He said he had watched it from the parking lot across the street. The defense argued the distance, the darkness, the angle. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Daniel was convicted. He received a sentence of 25 years. He had served 23 of them. Claire had spent a long time, in the years after the trial, trying to understand why Marcus Webb had said what he said. She never found an answer that satisfied her. She eventually accepted that she might never find one. She had built her life around that acceptance, the way you build a house around a load-bearing wall, working carefully, always aware of what you cannot touch. And then Marcus Webb was admitted to the Riverside Palliative Center on a Thursday in April, and she was the nurse assigned to his corridor. He did not recognize her that first week. She was reasonably sure of that. He was sedated for much of it, and when he was awake he was navigating the particular interior weather of a man who has recently been told that his remaining time is measured in weeks. She watched him from a professional distance and noted what he needed and provided it. His daughter came on the second day. Her name was Karen, and she was somewhere in her mid-30s, and she had her father's eyes, a dark, careful gray, and she sat beside his bed for hours holding his hand and not saying much. Claire brought her coffee. She thanked Claire the way people thank nurses in those rooms, with a kind of exhausted gratitude that has run out of specific words. Marcus Webb had a son too, she learned. He had been married twice. He had worked for 20 years at a regional distribution company before retiring. He had a garden. His daughter mentioned the garden more than once, the tomatoes he grew, the way he talked to the plants. Claire listened to all of it. She went home at night and sat with it. She called Daniel on the 4th day. He was allowed 1 call per week. She used hers on a Tuesday, standing in the parking lot of the facility with her keys in her hand, and she told him. There was a long silence. "Let it go," Daniel said. She said she didn't know if she could. Claire, his voice had a patience in it that had been built over 23 years. A patience constructed at a cost she could not calculate. He's dying. Whatever he did, he's dying. Let it go. She said she would try. She did not try very hard. On the 5th night, she was doing her last round when she heard Marcus talking. He was alone in the room, and she thought at first he was on the phone. She paused outside the door and listened. He was not on the phone. He was talking in the way people talk when the medication and the fear and the exhaustion combine into something that breaks the usual seals, not dreaming, not fully awake, just moving through a room in his own mind that she could not see. He said, I know that. He said, there wasn't anything else I could do. And then he said, clearly, in a voice that was entirely lucid, the Harmon boy didn't do it. Claire stood in the corridor. The floor was quiet. Somewhere at the end of the hall, a monitor beeped twice. She went in. He was staring at the ceiling. His eyes moved to her when she entered. You're up late, he said. Checking on you, she said. She gave him water. She adjusted the drip. She did the things her hands knew how to do while her mind was somewhere else entirely. She had 4 more days on his corridor before her rotation change. She spent the next morning deciding what to do with 4 days. By the afternoon, she had concluded she would do nothing. She would care for him. She would be professional. She would be, as she had always been in that building, the person who made the last part bearable. Daniel was right. The man was dying. Justice, at this point, looked like paperwork and lawyers and appeals that would outlast whatever weeks Marcus Webb had left. She told herself this, and then on the 7th day, during the slow quiet of the afternoon, she was sitting with him while he ate, slowly, with the deliberate effort of a man for whom eating had become real work, and he looked up at her and said, "You have his eyes." She set down the water glass. "Whose eyes?" she said. He looked at her for a long time. "You know whose." The room was very still. Outside the window, a delivery truck moved through the parking lot. She watched it until it was gone. "When did you know?" she said. "First day," Marcus said. "Your name badge, Harmon." He looked back at his food. "I thought about asking for a different nurse." "Why didn't you?" He set down his fork. "I don't know. Maybe I thought I deserved it. Someone who knew looking after me." He was quiet for a moment. "Or maybe I thought you deserved it. The chance to look at me." He didn't meet her eyes. "I don't know which one it was." She stayed for another 20 minutes. She did not ask the question she had been carrying for 23 years. She was not ready, or he wasn't. She could not tell yet which of them was the obstacle. She came back the next morning. He was having a better day, a phrase that had a particular meaning in that building, where better and worse described windows of hours. He was sitting up. His daughter had brought a paperback novel and he was holding it without reading it. "I want to explain something to you," he said, before she had finished her check. She put down the chart. He told her that in the winter before the trial, he had been approached by a man named Gerald Voss. Gerald Voss had been Roy Eston's business partner and had owed Roy Eston a significant sum of money that Roy Eston had been increasingly vocal about collecting. Roy Eston's death had been convenient for Gerald Voss. Gerald Voss needed someone else blamed for it. He had found Marcus Webb, who had a debt of his own, a different kind, and who had 2 young children. "He told me what would happen to them," Marcus said. "If I didn't." He said it simply, without theater. The room held it. "I told myself Daniel Harmon was young. That he'd serve some time and get out. That it would be all right eventually." He paused. "I told myself a lot of things for a long time." She listened to all of it without interrupting. When he was done, she asked, "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you're here," he said. "And because I've been waiting for someone to tell it to for a very long time." He looked at the window. Gerald Voss died in 2019. Stroke. "There's nothing he can do to anyone anymore." She stood. "There's a letter," he said. She stopped. "In the drawer. The blue envelope." He did not look at her. "I wrote it 2 years ago. I didn't know what to do with it. I kept thinking I'd find the right moment, the right way to send it." He exhaled slowly. "I never did." She opened the drawer. The envelope was there, sealed, blue, with the words for the record written across the front in careful block letters. She held it. "It's everything," Marcus said. "Gerald Voss. What he told me to say. What he threatened. All of it. Signed, dated. I had it notarized 2 years ago." A pause. "I don't know why. It just seemed like it should be official." She stood there for a long time with the envelope in her hands. She took the letter home that night. She did not open it. She set it on the kitchen table and made tea and sat across from it in the dark for a long time. She thought about Daniel. She thought about 23 years, about the weekly calls, about the sound his voice had taken on. That patience built at a price. She thought about his face at the trial, 19 years old, turning to find her in the gallery when the verdict came in. She thought about what he had said on the phone. Let it go. He had meant it. He had let go of the thing she had been holding for both of them, and she was not sure she had the right to pick it back up on his behalf. At 11 o'clock, she called a lawyer she knew, a woman she had met at her nephew's school years earlier, who did criminal appeals work. She left a voicemail. The lawyer called back at 7 the next morning. Claire told her what she had, where it came from, and that the man who wrote it had perhaps 3 weeks left. "I need a recorded statement if he's able to give one," the lawyer said. "I'll ask," Claire said. He was able. On a Thursday afternoon, with Karen sitting in the corridor at Claire's quiet request, Marcus Webb gave a 40-minute recorded statement to a camera on a laptop. He was careful and thorough and tired by the end. He looked very small against the pillow. When it was over and the lawyer had thanked him and closed the connection, he looked at Claire. "Will it be enough?" he said. "I don't know," she said. "Honestly." He nodded. He seemed to find something in that. Not comfort, but something he could rest against. "I'm sorry," he said. "I know that doesn't fix it." She looked at him for a moment. "No," she said, "it doesn't." She left the room. She stood in the corridor for a while. And then she went back to work, because there were other patients, and the corridor did not stop needing her just because something enormous had happened in room 12. Marcus Webb died 11 days later. Claire was not on shift that night. Karen called her in the morning and said her father had been at peace at the end. Claire said she was glad. She wasn't entirely sure that was true. Peace wasn't quite the word for what she had watched happen in room 12 over those weeks. But something had moved between them in those last days, some weight had transferred, and maybe that was close enough. The legal process moved faster than she expected. The lawyer filed the appeal in late May. By July, the state's attorney's office had opened a reinvestigation into Gerald Voss's role in Roy Eston's death. The original prosecution's key witness, it turned out, had been coerced. The receipts matched. The timeline held. She called Daniel every week and told him what she knew. He was quiet about it. He listened and did not say much, and she did not push. In September, a judge granted the appeal. On a Wednesday morning in October, 23 years and 7 months after the verdict, Daniel Harmon walked out of Renner Correctional through a door into a parking lot where the light came in low and flat the way it does in autumn. She was standing by her car. He was thinner than she had expected, which was strange, because she had watched him thin over 20 years of visits. But out here, in daylight, with no glass between them, it was different. It landed in a different part of her. They did not say anything for a while. He walked to where she was standing and they stood there together while the other families moved around them, hugging, crying, taking photographs, doing all the things people do in parking lots on days like this. She thought about saying something about Marcus Webb, about the letter, about room 12 and the blue envelope and the 40 minutes on a Thursday afternoon. She didn't. There would be time for that. Or there wouldn't, and it could wait either way. Right now he was standing next to her in October light. And for the first time in a very long time, that was the only thing that was true.